Yeah. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, ma'am.
Okay, we are going to continue our discussion on routing algorithms. Okay, last class we had learned what is a routing algorithm. Basically, a routing algorithm is a software which is responsible for deciding the best route along which data can be transferred. So what route the packets must take to reach the destination, that will be decided by the routing algorithm. As we discussed yesterday, there are two types of routing algorithms: non-adaptive routing algorithm and adaptive routing algorithm. We know what are the advantages of adaptive routing algorithm, and we also know what are the disadvantages of non-adaptive routing algorithm. Okay. There are many routing algorithms which we are going to learn. Some of them are there for your syllabus. Yesterday, we learned one important routing algorithm which is called as flooding. Actually, in flooding, there is no route that is decided, or there is no, you can't call it as a full-fledged routing algorithm also, because a packet is not passed along one route. In fact, whatever packet of data we want to send, multiple copies of it are created. So if a packet is coming over an incoming line, as many outgoing lines are there, over all those outgoing lines, the copies are sent. So this way, if every router keeps on doing the same thing, finally, some route will take it to the destination. But what will happen because of flooding? The name itself is suggesting one packet giving rise to many duplications or replications. So what will happen? Sakshi, mute yourself. So what will happen with this? Lot of duplicate packets will be created and the subnet will be flooded with packets. And that can cause congestion. Okay. So flooding as such may not be used on a regular basis whenever we are trying to transmit the data in a subnet. But especially when the subnet doesn't know other routers, when the subnet is booting, when the routers are booting or new routers are joining the subnet, at that time flooding can be used as an important algorithm. We also learned that how we can avoid that flood. We can make use of a hop counter, or we can put a sequence number, so that if a router has already forwarded a packet and a duplicate comes to it, it need not be forwarded. So there are ways of doing selective flooding so that the number of duplications or replications can be reduced. Okay. However, flooding finds its applications in areas where we are not sure about the route, or where we want to allow the packet to go to the destination in spite of when some, especially in military applications, where if suppose one part of the network is under attack, then we want the packet to reach the destination. So in that case, if at all one part is not working or one part is under attack, still your data will be forwarded along alternative routes, because flood of packets has been created. So in such applications, flooding can be commonly used. However, in real life applications, we find instead of flooding, there are other algorithms which can be used for routing. Now, whatever algorithms we are going to learn, they are only basic methods. These algorithms have been refined, researched, and newer offsprings of these algorithms have been developed. Today's for example, if you're thinking about internet or you're thinking about any wide area network, these basic concepts that we are learning are refined, and drawbacks from it are removed, and newer algorithms which are based on these have been developed. So these are not all, I mean, whatever algorithms we are going to learn now, they may not be used as it is in the internet, but variations of these algorithms or with changes in these algorithms are definitely used in the internet. So basic concepts that are there, we will learn. One important algorithm which is used in a subnet for routing the data from source to destination, it is called as distance vector routing. Now, in distance vector routing, if there are two nodes in the sense routers, and they are connected by a route or by a transmission line, then the packet will be transmitted along a least cost route. Least cost means what? The route over which least amount of time will be taken. So cost there could be time required to transmit the packet, or could be the amount, maybe the number of seconds, or maybe the money that you would spend to transmit the data from the source to destination. So let us think that cost there means time. Okay. For example, from source router to destination router, there is a connecting transmission line, and to transmit the data from source to destination, so 2 seconds are required. So the cost of that route is 2. Okay. Whenever we are using distance vector routing, there could be multiple paths over which we can transmit the data, but distance vector routing will take into consideration the least cost path, in the sense the path over which the time taken to transmit the packet would be least. Okay. So least cost path between any two nodes is the route with minimum distance. You can measure the cost in terms of money, in terms of time, or in terms of distance. So if at all there's a cost associated with a particular transmission line, there the cost could mean say the time required to reach from the source to the destination, or the distance, the length of that particular transmission. Generally, it is the time required. Okay. Now, how this distance vector routing will work? In distance vector routing, every node will maintain a vector. Vector means table. Node means router. So you have to consider a subnet, many routers inside the subnet, and transmission lines that connect them. So in case of distance vector routing, every router will maintain or will keep a table. It is a database or a vector of minimum distances to other nodes. So if there are 10 nodes inside the subnet and we are considering a particular router, it will maintain a table, a routing table or a vector, which shows how much amount of time would be required to go to all other nodes that are there inside the subnet. So the table at each node, that is the database, will guide the packets. It will, looking at that table, the router can decide which is the path over which the packet should be sent. The next hop, where the packet should reach, that will be decided based on the vector or based on the table. That is why this method is called as distance vector routing. We have a vector which shows the distances or which shows the time required to reach the destination. Always the vector will maintain the least cost that would be required to reach a particular destination. And depending on that vector, what values are stored in the vector, a routing decision is made. Hence, it is called as a distance vector routing. To make you all understand distance vector routing, let us take one example. Instead of routers, let us think that we have different cities in a particular state, and there are lines that connect them or roads that connect them. So cities, like for example, Belgaum is there, Dharwad is there, Bangalore is there, Bombay is there. These are the different cities. And the roads that connect them will measure the distance. For example, from Belgaum, there's a connecting road to say Bombay or Bangalore. The distance between Belgaum and Bangalore can be calculated. Like that, from Bangalore, we may go to some other place like maybe Chennai. The distance between Bangalore to Chennai can be calculated. So if we know the distance from Belgaum to Bangalore and from Bangalore to Chennai, we may not have a direct route from Belgaum to Chennai, but we can definitely calculate a route via Bangalore. So suppose Belgaum to Bangalore requires 500 kilometers, and suppose Bangalore to Chennai is another 300 kilometers. So I may not have a direct route from Belgaum to Chennai, but I know the distance from Belgaum to Bangalore, it is 500. Bangalore to Chennai, it is 300. So 500 plus 300, the total distance that I have to cover to go from Belgaum to Chennai would be 800. This same concept is used in distance vector routing. There could be direct lines that connect the routers. There could be indirect lines that connect the routers. Every line will be associated with a cost. Depending on whichever is the least cost, that line will be chosen to transmit the data. Okay, let us take one example. Imagine there is a subnet, a subnetwork, which is made up of, say, 5 routers. Which are these routers? A, B, C, D, and E. So A, B, C, D, and E, what is shown here are nodes. You people are learning design and analysis of algorithms, no? In that you will learn this. You will learn Dijkstra's method for shortest path routing and all that. That will be taught to you. So if you are looking at this diagram, these A, B, C, D, and E, they are assume they are routers. Okay. From A, if we want to transmit the data from A to B, the cost associated with that line, which could be time or which could be distance, is 7. From B to C, the cost is 1. 1 second you can say, or 1 meter, 1 kilometer you can say. Let's take it as seconds. Okay, so amount of time. From C to D, the amount of time required to transmit the data is 2. D to E, it is 2. E to B, it is 8. And A to E, it is 1. Okay. Suppose A wants to know what is the time required to go to B, go to C, go to D, transmit the data to E. Then what it will do? First of all, A will maintain one table, which is called as a routing table. Then it will calculate the time required. For example, to go from A to B, there is a direct path where the cost is 7. Okay, let us take it as 7. From A to E, there's a direct path that connects it and the cost is 1. So let us take it as 1. From A to C, if you look at A to C, there is no direct path. So we have to go via an indirect path. Now there are 2, 3 paths. If you look at A to C, we can go from A to B, B to C. What will be the cost? 7 plus 1, which is 8. If I want to go to C, I can go from A to E, E to B, and E to C. How much will be the cost? 8 plus 1, 9 plus 1, 10. So previous cost was 8, this cost is 10. There's one more route that takes me to C. Can you see that? A to E, E to D, and D to C. And what is the cost? 1 plus 2 plus 2. 2 plus 2 is 4, 4 plus 1 is 5. Now we have 3 routes. Among them, which is the smallest route? One route is 7 plus 1, 8. Another route is 1 plus 8 plus 1, that is 10. Another route is via E, 1 plus 2 plus 2, it is 5. So which route will you choose? You have 3 routes to go to C. Which route will you choose?
E1.
Yeah, via E. Via E, correct? So now, like that, what distance vector routing will do is, it will maintain a table. It will try to calculate the routes. Some routes may be direct and they may be shortest. Sometimes they may be direct yet longer. So we can go via an indirect route also. Every time we find a new route which is smaller, that route is updated inside the table. And looking at the table, every time a packet comes to the router will decide which is the best path along which the data can be sent. This method, wherein every now and then the table is updated. See, right now, suppose we want to go to C and the least cost is 1 plus 2 plus 2, that is 5. Suppose later on, one more router comes. Let us call it as F. Imagine A to F is 1 second, F to C, imagine, okay, is a connection and it is 1 second. So 1 plus 1, how much would be the cost? 2. So right now the cost is 5. New router boots, new router joins the subnet, and that gives me a smaller path than the existing. Then I should update that inside the vector or inside the database and choose that path. Hence, distance vector routing is an example of adaptive routing algorithm. It adapts. It calculates the paths. Direct paths could be there, indirect paths could be there. Whichever are the shorter paths, those it will store into the vector. Every time new paths are found out and they are better than the existing ones, the database or that vector is updated. Hence, distance vector routing is an example of adaptive routing algorithm. Everybody got this point? Okay, I have one more example. You all can see the diagram. We are showing the vector for A and the vector for D. Every router will maintain a table. It's not only that A will maintain. All the routers that are there, they will maintain their own tables. And they will maintain how much cost, how much time is required to send the data to other routers. For example, if you all can see this diagram, okay, look at the distance vector of A. Now A to A means if I want to send the data from source to source only, that will not be the case. So A to A is out of question. We put a dash. A to B, we can send the data from A to B. What's the time required? 2 seconds. There's a direct path that connects A to B. Similarly, from A to D, what is the time required? 3. So all others are indirect paths. So you can see in that vector question mark is there. Means initially when A starts creating that table, it will only put those paths which it knows directly, which are direct neighbors. Later on, it will update that table. So A to B is 2, A to D is 3. Now let us calculate A to C. If I want to go from A to C, there is a path that takes me from A to B and B to C. Okay, there are other paths also. For example, A to D, D to F, F to okay, A to D, D to F, F to E, E to B, and B to C. But that is a longer path, correct? See, A to D is 3. 3 plus 4 is 7. 7 plus 1 is 8. 8 plus 3 is 11. Or if I come like this, A to D, 3, D to F, 4, that is 7. F to E, 10. 10 plus 2, 12. 12 plus 3, 15. So there are other paths to go to C, but if I decide to go along them, they will all be larger paths. So I can definitely go like this, A to B, B to C. Okay, what would be the total cost? 2 plus 3, which is equal to 5. So what this distance vector will do, the moment it gets to know the indirect path and their cost, it will update them inside the table. So in this table, later on, once that distance is calculated, C, the total cost will be 5 and it will go via B. So in that table, it will show the next hop. C, if we want to reach C, the next hop would be B. Next hop means next stop where our data should go. From A, it should be sent to B, and from B, it should be sent to C. Similarly, A to D, we have 3. A to E can be calculated. A to F can be calculated. A to E, can you see which is the shortest path for A to E? Can you tell me which is the shortest path for A to E?
A to B, B to E.
Correct. A to B, B to E. So like that, every router will maintain this. You can see there's a distance vector for D also. Similarly, there'll be a distance vector for F. There'll be a distance vector for G. For all other nodes that are there in the subnet, every time new routes are found out, those are updated inside the table, and the table will show the least cost path over which the data can be transmitted. Everybody's understanding this? So there could be direct paths or there could be indirect paths. We can take the indirect path definitely if the cost of reaching the destination is less. All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now there is one more, routing algorithm. We'll take that. That routing algorithm is called as link state routing. The name of this routing algorithm is known as link state routing. Now this link state routing has got 5 steps that are executed. Okay, have a look at all the 5 steps. What is the 5 steps? The first step is In the first step, every router will do this. It will discover its neighbors. Neighbors means other routers which are directly connected to it. In the first step, in link state routing, every router will find out its neighbors. Neighbors means those routers which are directly connected to it, and learn their network addresses. Every router will have an address, just like every computer will have an IP address. Every router will also have an address. Okay, so unless we know the address, we can't transmit the data to the destination. So every router will try to find out who are its adjacent routers or who are its neighboring routers, and it will try to find out what are their addresses so that in future it can transmit the data to them. Second step is it will measure the line cost to reach each of its neighbors. Line cost or delay. Delay means time. Okay, so if at all a particular router joins the subnet just now, it wants to know who are its neighbors and what would be the time required to go to its neighbors, because nobody will tell it. It has to adaptively find out during existing conditions. When the router is working, it has to adaptively find out who are the neighbors attached to it and how much time would be required to reach those neighbors so that data can be transmitted to the next hop in the subnet. Okay, once the delay or the cost of reaching its neighbors is found out, then the third step is done. During the third step, each router will create special packets which are called as link state packets, and in those packets it will put all the information about its neighbors. Whatever it has just learned means who are its neighbors, what is the time required to reach the neighbors. Such data will be put inside a special packet which is called as a link state packet, and that special packet will then be sent in the next step to all the routers. To send it to all the routers, flooding is used. Okay, after a link state packet has been created, it has to be sent to all the routers in the subnet. So best way of doing it is make use of flooding. And in the last step, since such packets will keep on coming to all the routers that are there, after enough information has been obtained about every router, every node in the subnet, then similar to distance vector routing, a method called as shortest path routing is calculated, so that the shortest path from a source to all other destinations that are there in the subnet is computed and updated inside its own table or inside its own database. Okay, so these 5 steps, we will try to learn them in detail now. We'll try to understand these 5 steps in detail. Try to have a look at all the 5 steps once again. Every router should be doing these steps, which is the first step: discover the neighbors, learn their addresses. Second step, measure the delay or the time required to go to each of its neighbors. Then third step, every router will create special packets called as link state packets that will contain information about neighbors, time, and all that. Then you have to send these packets. Each router has to send these packets to other routers. For that, flooding is used in the fourth step. Once every router gets information about all other routers in the subnet, then distance vector, or the main concept in distance vector, that is finding the shortest path. There may be many paths, but whichever is shorter, that is found out using shortest path routing algorithm. Inside the router, shorter paths will be stored, and this is done on and often every t seconds. After every interval of time, this procedure is repeated so that new routes, smaller routes, can be updated inside the router's memory every now and then. Very often it can be done. Hence, link state routing is also an example of adaptive routing algorithm. Link state routing is also an example of adaptive routing algorithm. Okay. Now, so each of the routers that are there, they will be shown as circles or nodes, and each of the transmission lines that connect them will be shown as lines. So every router has to do this step. What is the step? Learning about neighbors. Then once it has learned about the neighbors, it can create a graph to find out or which will show the shortest path that will take it from the source node to the destination node. So to learn about neighbors, how does it learn about neighbors? There's a procedure that it follows. For example, imagine, have a look at the figure A. Imagine we have a router called H. Now, can you see who are the neighbors of H? Can you see figure A and the router H? Who are the neighbors of H?
GI.
Yeah, G and I, because they are adjacent nodes. They are directly connected to H. Who are the neighbors of E?
DC.
Yeah, D and C. Everybody's understanding this? So what do we mean by neighbors? Those nodes or those routers which are directly connected to a particular route. For example, if you are considering F, its neighbors are G and I. If you are considering I, its neighbors are F and H. Like that, every router will try to find out who are its neighbors, so that if any packet comes to it, how to transmit it to the next router can be decided very easily. Now, for discovering the neighbors, that is to learn about the neighbors or to find out who are the neighbors of a particular node, let us imagine that if you're looking at this figure now, imagine there's a subnet and there are many routers. Here I have shown only 3 routers. Okay, so imagine a new router called A just joined the subnet. Just joined the subnet means newly it is booted, newly it has started. It doesn't know who are its neighbors. Maybe there's a transmission line that connects A to B and also A to C. A, B, and C all are routers, and there are transmission lines. So now A is just booting. A has just joined the network. So it doesn't know who are its neighbors. So how does it discover the neighbors? How does it find out about the neighbors? A will create special packets called as hello packets. Now you call them hello because generally that is what we do. Suppose a new person comes to your house or to your class. You don't know him. So you just say, hi, hello, I'm so and so. What is your name? You ask, no, you introduce yourself. Like that, A will also introduce itself to the neighbors. How will it introduce itself? A will create a special packet with a hello message and its own IP address. Whatever is A's address, that it will put in that packet. So a hello message with the IP address is sent from A to B. The moment such a hello packet comes to B, B comes to know that a new router has joined. Its name is A, and it will again send back a hello. Now, when you shake hands, when you say hello to someone, the other person will also say hello to you. Like that, B will also introduce itself by sending a hello message and its own IP address. So A's hello message reaches B along with the address of A. B comes to know that there's A and its address is so and so. B will say hello and give its own address. So now A and B have introduced themselves. Means A and B know that A is the neighbor of B and B is the neighbor of A. Similarly, the same procedure will be executed for A and C. A is directly connected to C. So A will send a hello message to C and C will reply back with a hello message and its own IP address. Now what happens? A gets data. A has discovered its neighbors. So A knows that there is a router by name B and its name, there's another neighbor, there's a neighbor called B and its IP address is so and so. Similarly, there's a neighbor called C and its IP address is so and so. So A didn't know anything. Now it has updated its information by taking the IP address of B as well as taking the IP address of C. So A's table, A's routing table or A's vector will store 2 direct neighbors B and C. Okay. Now, during the next step, the line cost is measured. Line cost means delay. Delay means time. To go from a particular router to its neighbor, how much time is required? To go from one router to another, how much time is required? And for that, generally, inside the subnet, many routers can be there. Generally, a router will only find out the line cost of its neighbors, not all. So in this diagram, we have so many routers. If you're thinking of A will only find out the line cost of reaching B and the line cost of reaching D. It will not find out the line cost of reaching all others because they are not neighbors. They are not adjacent routers. They are other routers. For them, they also will follow the same procedure. But for them, whosoever are their neighbors, only that information is going to be stored. So to measure the line cost, generally, a particular node will make use of a packet, which is a special packet, which is called as an echo packet. Now, what is an echo packet? You know what is an echo, right? Suppose you're standing on top of a hill and you very loudly, you call out your name. You say, for example, you call out the name of your college, Gokte College, and you hear an echo back, Gokte, Gokte, that name keeps on, or whatever you have shouted, that keeps on coming back to you. That's called as an echo. Everybody knows this, no? So like that, we can, to measure the time required for a particular packet, for a particular data unit to go from one router to another, every router that is present in the subnet will do this task. What is this task? Measuring the line cost. How will it measure the line cost? For example, suppose there is a subnet and A is a new router which has booted. It has just sent hello packets to B and C and it knows their IP addresses. So now it wants to know how much time is required to go from A to B and also from A to C. So what A will do? A will create special packet called as echo packet and allow immediately after it starts that packet, a timer is started. So suppose that what the timer is going to do, it will count the time required for the echo packet to reach B and come back to A. The moment the echo packet goes from A to B, B will send it back immediately. So now A has started the timer. Suppose from the moment that packet was sent till it reached the router B and it came back to A, imagine the time required is 6 seconds. So the round trip time is 6 seconds. You understand what is meant by round trip time? Round trip time means time required for the echo packet to go from A to B and come back from B to A. How much time is required? 6 seconds. This round trip time is divided by 2. Why it is divided by 2? Because this is the time required for a packet to go from A to B and also to come back from B to A. So suppose it is 6 seconds, 6 divided by 2. How much is the line cost then? 3. So 3 seconds will be required for the packet to go from A to B. Similarly, a echo packet will be sent from A to C. C will immediately return back that echo packet. Imagine the echo packet takes 4 seconds. So the A will calculate the line cost as 4 divided by 2, which is equal to 2 seconds. So that the time that is shown here in the diagram is the round trip time. But we don't want round trip time. We never send packets generally. If a router is connected to another router, it is only one way. Once it transmits the data, its task is done. So this round trip time is divided by 2 and that much amount of time is calculated as the line cost. I hope you people are understanding what is meant by line cost. Line cost means cost or the time required for a packet to go from source router to the destination router. Which is our source router? A. And which is our destination router? B or C. Okay. So how do we calculate the line cost? Create special packets called echo packets. Send it from send it from source router to destination router. Destination router will send it back. Calculate the round trip time divided by 2. We get the line cost. Everybody followed this? So I have discussed 2 steps of link state routings. Which are those 2 steps? Discover the neighbors and measure the line cost. There are remaining 3 steps which I have not discussed, but everybody understood this?
Yes, ma'am.
2 steps? Okay. Now, if you have, first of all, enter your attendance in the chat box. And if you have any questions, you can ask me. Do you have any doubts? in the previous one or even in this one, we learned distance vector routing. And we also learned link state routing. If in distance vector routing you find any doubt, ask me. Or in link state routing also, if you have any doubts, you can ask. Out of these 5 steps, today I have covered only 2 steps. Discover the neighbors and measure the line cost or the delay. Any doubt you have?
No, ma'am.
Okay, we will continue our discussion on link state routing in the next class. I will cover link state and one more routing algorithm that is there. Okay, after that, again, if you have any doubts in the remaining steps, you can ask. All right, we'll stop here.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.